Okay.
Welcome to Sesa Wo Suban, Sacred Conversations. I
Mm,
am Mama Tyrion. I am a an intuitive spiritual evolution and ancestral transition doula.
mhm.
And this channel is all about finding ways to feel and experience and be the joy and love and bliss in death.
Mm.
So that is a journey that I feel I'm needing to just go on ahead and get kick-started because I know that there's a lot that is going into it. So
Yes.
we will do what we can every day toward that. This channel, this project is really like a training for myself. As every day that we live is his training. So I am so honored to be joined by Mama Spirit Traveler, and we were just talking about your many beautiful names and the transformations that you have uh, experienced and created for yourself, and also for us, for those around you who get to bask in your expressions. You know.
Yes. And I have enjoyed the journey, truly, every step of the way. And it even seemed like after transitioning into the name Spirit Traveler, my births got deeper. I don't know, like more spiritual and gave me greater lessons and deeper lessons. That's the best way I can say it, you know. Um,
Deeper.
it was just they were more they were more intense in the spiritual realm. They were more intense in the people that were drawn to me after my name shift versus the people that I worked with before I shifted names. Yeah, yeah. When I think about it, took me to a whole nother level.
When when did you start? Was there a clear start for your work as a doula, as a birth doula?
Well, my first birth was in 1979.
Oh,
And I started, well, the journey began in the ninth grade.
mhm. I
I
was gonna
had
say
this,
you were definitely you
yeah,
were definitely like 2 years old in 1979, but go ahead. I'll listen.
but it started in the ninth grade, technically. And it's like a switch turned on, and I had this obsession for human anatomy, um, birth, and how this whole thing works. I was just obsessed. It was just a clear, defined, I'm going to find out, and this is what I want to know before whatever else it was. I had no idea that I would be doing birth work in the ninth grade. But as it progressed, I went to child development, child psychology, and all of those things. And then by the time I got to 17, I was talking birth and walking moms through the process. And then like by the time I got to college, that was in 1979, but my first birth at college was 1980. And then I think I sat with 3 or 4 women that whole time I was there. By the time I got back to Detroit, most of my births consisted of the women in the mosque, and my family, my immediate family, and the women in the mosque. And I never gave it a name that, oh, I do doula work until about 2009. And that's when I got on Facebook. And I was like, okay, I have never done like any advertisement like, hey, I'm over here doing doula work. I never put up cards or had flyers or said that's what I do online. but people heard through the grapevine that that's the work that I was doing, and they would just come in and ask. And then I made up a little page. In the early days of Facebook, if you can remember, they would let you do a page within a page, and it was a little section that allowed me to do some kind of advertisement inside of my lavender spirit profile, and it was called A Blissful Birth. But I never did anything with it. It was just sitting there. If I go back in there, it's probably still there. But I never did anything with it. And someone helped me put a link, a website connected to it. Never did anything with that. By the time 2011 came around, um, my daughter made the mistake of saying, you know, my mom does that kind of work, to somebody in the community. And they found me, and I was like, you know, I haven't done it in a while since, I haven't really did a birth since I was going through my transition after my first marriage. And they said, we don't care. We want you. We want you, or we don't care. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like once they started, I was in 2011. Once they started, it like opened up. It opened up, and more people were hearing that I did the doula work. And more so, it shifted to midwifery. In that area, I started doing the doula work, picked up, but the midwifery work picked up as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went from there. I was really, I don't know if you call it rebellious, but I refused for anyone to say I'm the one responsible for training her. You know, like you got to have DONA, or you got to have whatever Academy of the Doula Society, National, this, that, or the other. I did not want them to train me, to tell me my name is on their books. And that's how she got to where she is. I realized that I had been doing birth work in all of my lifetimes. And that's why it came so natural. And if anyone was going to get credit for it, it would be the women that came by my side to assist me in the learning and took me under their wing, but not any institution, if you will. That was not going to be the case. And I had a couple of women. My doula who assisted in the births that I had at home was Frenzella Gregory. And I only learned from her from watching her. I never really asked her a lot of questions. I just watched what she did. And then after she was with me for my births, I began to recommend her to other women. After that, I'm trying to remember how I met Charlotte Sanchez, Valerie, and then Bridget. And I cannot remember Bridget's last name right now, and I cannot remember Valerie's last name. But Valerie was her specialty, or expertise, if you will, was breech birth only, natural, at the birth center. Bridget, she did water births, but she did birthing. I worked both with both of them. And then Charlotte Sanchez, I spent the most time with, and she walked me through a lot of things. And she's one of those midwives who worked with the Amish. She worked in the Islamic circles. She worked in Native American circles. She worked in some Arab circles that may not have been Islamic, and people that just did not want to be on the grid, if you will. And I worked under her. And then she ended up moving to Atlanta, I think. I think she's still down there now. But she had a family of midwives. Most of her sisters, she had a sister that was a midwife in Saudi Arabia. She had a sister that was a midwife in California. And someone else in her line was doing midwifery work. So I learned what I learned under her. A lot of it was self-taught. I was just, when I tell you, obsessed, it was crazy. Every book, I worked in a library for 2 years for work study in college, and I worked in the processing room. And the sister that worked over it, she said, you can take any book you want home before you process it. And when you bring it back, process it. You know, we didn't have to sign nothing or anything. She said, take what you want. I got crazy. I was worse than a kid in a candy store. I went and got those books. I studied and studied and studied and studied, and I just started practicing what I read. And then for my first birth, which is Aziz, um, his dad and I, we had two books. We had a little paperback that we found in this secondhand bookstore that probably cost all of $4. It talked about how to give birth at home. And then we had a survival magazine that talked about what to do in case of emergencies if you have to deliver a baby. And that's what we used as our handbook, guidebook to have him at home. And that was in Jefferson City, Missouri. I hadn't even got to Detroit yet. So it's something about it. Early on, I used to be what they call, you know how I don't know if you know people that are like fire chasers. It's people that run around and chase fires, and afterwards they'll stick around and see if the family wants them to board up the windows and make sure that everything is secure so won't nobody break in the house. They literally chase fires. They have a radio so they know where to go, and they wait around until the end of the fire to make sure they secure homes, and that's how they make their money. Well, I didn't do it to make money, but I felt like I was a birth chaser. I was always running. If somebody told me they were expecting, I was running to see. Okay, so do you have this and do you have that? And I'm gonna be here. And do you want to do? And I'll be there. And it was always just running to find it. And afterwards, I had to find my center because I was really just doing, 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 doing. It didn't matter who, it didn't matter where. And the other thing that taught me some lessons is I never charged. I didn't start charging from 1979 until 2011. I never charged for a birth. Never. I delivered almost every other baby. I would say 75% of the women that were in the mosque at that time, I was there for their birth. And if I wasn't there for their birth, um, I was walking them through prenatal consultations or something like that, or helping them through postpartum consultations, or being there if somebody had a preterm labor or twins or something. I was somewhere in the mix. You were
It's
not going to have a
natural
baby.
breathing.
Right, you
It
were
was
not going to have a
natural
baby, and I
speaking
didn't
to
know
you.
about it.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
now it's selective. Even though I said I retired 2 years ago, it's still selective.
Mm.
Yeah.
Be tired. It's so cute when you
Yeah.
have
Right. I don't even know what made me say that. I just know I wanted to pause for a minute.
mm-hmm.
I needed a pause
Pull back your energy a little bit.
so I could travel, so I could not always be uh, in the in between time, because I always found myself in the in
Yeah.
between time. Like, I'm not going to be able to go too far, but I need to do this. But I want to do that over here, but I don't want to be going too long, too far away where they can't reach me. And then as we started, the technology started changing.
You,
It
you
made
never go anywhere.
it makes it easier for me to work with moms because I can always do something online, FaceTime or Messenger. And I've had some incredible experiences with that. I assisted with a birth FaceTime for a mom with twins home birth. And I assisted with a mom during the pandemic. I knew her. I did not know her at all. I knew her the day of her birth. And we could not connect with FaceTime. We could not connect with Messenger. So I walked her through it on the regular phone. And then I met her 2 or 3 weeks after the birth. And it was like we had known each other for life. She said if it wasn't for the sound of my voice, she would not have been able to do what she did, because nothing was working. But one of the most beautiful things, because I was out and about, I was at the psychedelic pad at the time when I got the call, and I said, "Okay, give me an hour, and and call me back, or I'll call you back." By the time I got home, I just got in the door. I didn't even turn on lights, and I just kind of kneeled by the side of my bed, closed my eyes, and it took me straight into her bathroom. When she showed me the pictures, I got chills. I said, "You would not believe that is what I saw when I sat down to talk to you and guide you through that birth." And so I was I was done. And then she moved from the bathroom to the bedroom, and I saw the whole layout. I knew where her mother was standing in the room. I knew where her she had a friend, and then another sister that was a doula. It was like three people, and then her mate was there. And I could see where everyone was, the color of she was laying on like a floor pallet. I saw the color of everything, the lighting in the room. It was unbelievable. But I've had that happen to me before, where it's like remote viewing is what I would call
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So it was just incredible. He's like, that's not the only thing we got. We Messenger and FaceTime. There were other
Right.
things. It was like it
There
was
were
other things
things,
before this.
and this is with the technology of psychedelics,
uh,
and also without.
yes.
Yeah.
I have truly enjoyed it. Escalated even more with entheogens. Yep. The bursts became, and I don't want to say intense, but more the intensity of the connection between me and the mom, me and the baby. And I always say that it's never the mom that decides if I'm going to be, I call it the gatekeeper or the witness. It's always
Yeah.
the baby that calls me to the scene. It's always, I've had moms and dads meet with me, and they say, "Okay, yeah, we'll get back with you." I say, "Okay." They don't, I usually do like a consultation for an hour and maybe two, and then we'll go on and you get back with me after you figure out, is this what you really want to do? Am I the one you really want to be there? They some never call me back, and others call me back and say, "We decided we're just going to go on to the hospital," or "We decided we're just going to do it on our own," never really telling me anything else. Some of them did decide to go with another midwife, and some of them decided to go to the hospital, but they never told me that. But at the uh 11:55 hour before midnight, at the last minute, they would call and say, "We need you. We need you to be here for the baby."
You have been summoned.
And then I end up going, it's like, see, it wasn't your decision. It was the baby's decision. The baby is who was saying, "You better call that lady back and stop playing." And those births have been memorable as well. Yeah, being with you is very memorable. I was going over that this morning, and before I even talked to you, I was going over the whole thing. It's so good. I can see it today like it happened today, you know. Um, and then once your father and your mother arrived, the nurses, the room we had, it was set up so differently. It didn't seem like the average setup for me in the hospital. But yeah, it was beautiful. It was still beautiful, all of
Yeah.
it. And you were
I could feel you, and I can feel you kind of go, hmm. And
but
I felt like I knew exactly what you meant in that moment by, hmm, hmm, let me explore more into,
yeah,
it was definitely interesting, and it was meaningful, and it was a gift in and of itself.
yeah, you were
And
so good. You were
be
so
on a
good.
path,
You were
put me
so
on that
good.
path. Yeah, I was obsessed with finding that little girl. So I jumped down all the rabbit holes I could find
Mm,
to see, what had happened, why it had happened, and yes, you have my attention now. Which
yes,
let me sit up
yes,
straight and see what's going on. and you said, people in this situation, either you said they kind of either go one way or the other. And I went the other.
Right.
I definitely went the other. So you have brought me to my first question that I didn't prepare ahead of time, which is how have your experiences with death impacted your journey as midwife in this space, as doula, as entrance expert?
um, as we talked earlier, prior to the transition of Mama Sumara, um, may Allah be pleased with her. Prior to her transition, I would be so emotional about death, and I would it would take me a longer time to adjust to the absence, to adjust to the why. And it was in her transition that it was like an aha moment of life after life. You know, just because she's not physically here, she's still here. And this is what life after life looks like. And from that point on, when someone made their transition, although my heart would be still heavy, especially during the pandemic season, if you will, um, it helped me to be okay with death. It's okay. It's not and it doesn't matter, not to lessen the pain of any of the loved ones, but it doesn't matter how they make their departure. Um it was inevitable, and from what I understand based on some of the things that I've studied and some of the things that I've heard in my journeys is that we choose. We choose how we come and we choose how we leave. And
Yeah, no matter how dramatic or fantastic.
yes, yes, and yes. So the process has been easier for me to integrate for each person after that. It was difficult when my father passed in 2019, December 26th. And it was absolutely difficult when my mom passed in 2023, May 10th. However, it was not, I was able to do it with a lightness. I think I've had more other traumas in my life that gave me more difficulty. It gave me more of a challenge to integrate than their deaths, their transitions. And then some people, I call it ascension because I don't really think that they're gone. I think we had to see that they were gone to bring about a closure, but I think that they've been positioned in another place, still on the planet or still here physically, living physically, but just cannot be revealed at this time because they're in a place to get us through at a later time. They're getting
They're on a
they're
whole
getting
nother
us.
level,
Yes,
different vibration, different dimension,
yes. So
not resting.
I just I see death differently. I see death differently. Some deaths, when they announce them, I don't always believe what they say,
Mm.
especially if you go to funerals or janazas and there's a closed casket. If you have a memorial and you've never seen anything, and people might say that this is the ashes, or if there are no ashes or no body. My question is, why not? Where are they? At least that's the part of it. That's just how I process. It's something more than what's being said, you know.
It
And
does it feel different?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And it's not me being in a state of denial, like, no, they can't be dead. It's not that. It's
Right.
it's not that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It is not that at all. It's like, okay, okay. Now my phone is on.
How,
How has death affected?
yes.
I have always been conscious of death being a possibility in at birth. Um, but what has helped me to be sorry, to be okay with the process is, sorry about that, knowing that everything has its purpose. Everything has its purpose. And I have never wanted to be, although I am potentially God working through me, but I never wanted to be in that space where I felt like I was God as a birth worker to make something different happen outside of what was destined to be on a whole nother realm that I have nothing to do with. So um, I've only had that experience twice as a doula with someone outside of one of my children. Yeah. And I think I was with her several times and she really didn't think she could have children at all. But I was there with her for all of them. I think I was there for all of my grandchildren. I can kind of maybe name on one hand who I wasn't there for because they got there faster than I can get to them. But yeah, it has just, it didn't make me happy when it was over, because I was like, man, I was feeling some kind of way because what I found that happens to me in birth is I become you. I feel like I go right inside of your body. It's weird. I feel like I go right inside of your body, and whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, I'm there. So I can sense certain things. So when it's over, it doesn't cut off. It doesn't cut off. When you were there after that and you went home, I could feel you. And the other experience I had, I could feel her. I was all there. So I have to take, usually just in with birth in general, I have to take my postpartum time too after I'm
Yeah.
with after I'm with the moms, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And it it
So how do you take care of yourself, as in, it sounds like you're talking about, it's like part of being an empath, but it seems
yes.
a lot deeper than that. I mean, being an empath is deep.
Yes. And I do the same thing I would recommend moms to do. One, I would get rest, hydrated, eat, sleep. My best healing and integration is going into nature. Yeah. And when I can go into nature, especially taking off my shoes and going near water, then I'm good. Yeah. And if I can't do that, then on average, don't judge me. No. On average, a bath for me is at least 2 hours. On any given, it's at least 2 hours. So depending on anything else that's going on, I might be in there 3. But that's my process. And a lot of times that's why I'm up late too. That's part of the time, the best time for me, because the water works with me in, the things that I need, questions I need answered in the spirit realm. It works better for
Love
me that
that.
way.
You're
I don't
you're
think
integrating. You're
I,
integrating the water. You
yes.
said that you have always been aware that death is a possibility, and that seems logical. Um, but other than logic, why is that? What gave you that awareness?
When I was obsessing inside of my learning about life and birth and death and childbirth and anatomy and physiology and having my own children at home, when I would make the decision that this is how it's going to be, I had to accept the fact that if while I'm doing this home birth, one of my children don't make it because I'm choosing not to go to the hospital, that it's okay. And I process it the same way as if it were at the hospital. Because death is death. People would want to put, if she would have went to the hospital, it wouldn't have happened on it. But that's not necessarily true. So just knowing the inevitable possibility, um, when women are in childbirth, they are in an altered state.
Yeah.
And outside, I used to say, if I do my part, which is I eat good, get rest, do all the other things they say mom should do as a mom, then the only other thing I have to be concerned about is my unseen help on the other side. My ancestors, my angels, my guides, they're going to have to get the other part of it because I'm going to do my part. If my part is all the things I did, the best I could do to get to the point of birth and deliver, then they're in the background, I don't know, in the background, on the side, on the benches, cheering me on and ushering me through, um, where it's not a question of anything other than the process. What happens inside of the process is really out of my hands. You know what I'm saying? Some people
Yeah.
say, well, if you would have went to the hospital and got a C-section, maybe the court would have did such and such. Anything could have happened anywhere. Anything could have happened anywhere. And so I leave it up to however the divine has chosen, and this being has chosen before coming, how they want it to come. Because every baby wants their own birth story. Everyone. If they like drama, they're going to bring drama. If they want it to be serious and quiet, if they want it intense, they're coming intense. If it's going to be easy and you're going to laugh your way through the whole way with this, that's how they're coming. And I've experienced all of those and have seen all of those. I've experienced it for myself, and I've seen all of those, being by the side of mother. So it's been um, it's been life transforming for me. And as much as I say I don't want to do it anymore, it's something in me that will not allow me to stop. It's something in me. When I was with my daughter in love just recently, it's just something about it. It's just something about it that I cannot stop, you know. And the connection that happens with me and the baby and the mom, and it. it's not about a greater love or a greater connection. It's just like sometimes I look at it. Sometimes this is, and I'm not trying to make myself bigger than anyone, but I think about all of those who were present when Mary was giving birth in the manger, and how everybody wasn't privy to being in that room. And when you're privy to being in a space with a mom that's delivering, you don't even know what this child is going to be, and some do. There are cultures where there are gatekeepers, midwives, and astrologers or cosmologists, and they are watching the stars to see exactly when that baby comes, what that means. And they're putting it all together and they're lining it up. And if he makes it, it's in his birth chart. If he doesn't, it's in his birth chart. You know what I'm saying? It's all
That's
there.
very
It's all there. It's all there. But because we don't look at it like that as a culture in the United States, I have to put it like that. We're just really, really starting to get into it. It's groups and circles that may know it and do it, but we have not always made it a priority to know the alignment of the planets on those moments when we're about to have our baby, you know. And I've seen women choose the day they're going to deliver, not by just taking castor oil and like walking her out. They choose the day, even if they say, no, this baby's going to be born on December 15th, and something else happens and that baby comes on the 3rd of December. But they're not, most moms are in control, but not always in control. The baby is listening. The baby is listening, and they have a reason for how they do what they do. And that's how I've seen it over the years. And it's been a nice, beautiful journey from 17 until a week ago. From 17 years old to a week
what
ago.
time is it?
You're right. And I'm proud to say this year I'll be 65, and I am so happy. I want to do something to celebrate, but I haven't figured out what yet. I haven't figured out
Okay.
what, but I want
Now,
to do something.
we know you're grown, but you don't have to like inflate your age. You have wisdom, it's fine. You don't have to
I
do
get so excited. I told my children, I said, I'm finally an adult. Now they said, no, mom, you're a senior citizen. I was like, I am not a senior citizen.
that. Oh,
It's so funny. It's
so
so funny.
what do you think about the possibilities of changing the way, making such a dynamic change in the way that we look at death to the point where it affects how we experience births as well? Because for a long time, there has been this idea of suffering attached to birth, labor,
Yeah.
birth work, it's it's not put forth as something that is joyful. Biblically, it's part of punishment.
Hmm.
Um, so if we were able to change one, we would have to change both. We would have to take the suffering out of death as well.
Yes. One of the things I found um, that is key for both life entering and life exiting is gratitude. Gratitude is so key. And I think we forget that because we want to control and master and be this and that. And it's all good to be masters of all of the everythings. But when it comes to life and death, gratitude will not only heal your wounds, but it will protect you from harm. Truly,
Yes, it's like
it'll
insulated.
it can protect you from trauma. It can protect you from disappointment, even if you are truly grateful. A lot of times, you know, we say out our mouths what our heart is far removed. It's gratitude. You know, if we walk through our pregnancies with gratitude, no matter the swollen ankles, no matter the restless nights, no matter, you know, I can't eat this, but I eat that, and no matter any of those things. And once we get to the door of labor and delivery and really understanding what labor really is, if we labor joyfully, if we labor joyfully, even inside of the discomfort, but it's a mindset as well. Because when I was starting to have children, and my first baby came, and I was thinking about this the other day. I said I don't want to sound any kind of way, because people be like, well, that's you. But all my births were easy. All of them were joyful. Labor was intense, especially my very first home birth with my son. It was intense. And when I say intense, I'm a quiet birther. You know, everybody's births differently. You know, you're a quiet birther. At least you were the time I was with you. You're quiet.
I
Um,
am. Yeah.
I'm a quiet birther, so I go in. I go in to bring out, and some people
Yeah.
have to come out in order to bring out. They
Mhm.
scream and they cuss, and you know, and they got to talk, and everything has to be external. They even have to have
That's
television, even, or
their own
music.
expression. So
Yes,
there can't be rules.
yes, yes. And it's okay. All of it is okay. Whatever gets you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But adding gratitude on top of that list of things makes the difference in it all. In it
Right.
all.
Otherwise, what's the point? If we suffer through these things, then what are we taking with us as we're traveling?
Yes.
You know, I don't want to get to the next place where I'm going full of trauma.
No. And gratitude actually shifts your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It shifts the perspective, even um
Mm-hmm.
as you go through the entire piece. It shifts your perspective. You know, if you at some point, just keep it simple, you stub your toe and you say, oh
Mm-hmm.
shoot, and you want to cuss, continue to cuss at whatever, excuse me. But in that moment, you catch yourself and say, oh, thank you for that. I have to remember to move that chair. Or, oh, thank you for this pain, because a couple of days ago, I couldn't even feel my foot. You know, whatever it is, if you can find
The value.
a yes and gratitude in that moment, even though it's painful,
Mm-hmm.
it it
Because
it
that's just the signal.
it lessens it all. And not just, you know, well, spirit traveler said say thank you. No, really find something to be grateful in it for the
Yeah.
process, whether you cut your finger, stub your toe, lose a job, your house caught on fire. Gratitude.
There is purpose.
Gratitude.
Yeah. Because
Gratitude.
gifts don't always look like something that you want, something that you enjoy or that you think you enjoy, but it doesn't make it
Right.
not a gift. It doesn't make it not an opportunity for growth and for evolution and
Yes.
whatever you put it there for.
Yes. 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 That
It
that is
feels like what's the point? Yeah.
that was one of the things that kind of gave me the push to really start doing more inside of the birth work. Although I was by the side of women, I didn't do a whole lot of talking. I was usually real quiet. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be able to show women that they can go through birth not so much without pain, because everybody experiences pain differently, and everybody's tolerance level for pain is different. Because I've been with women, and I say, "Are you having a contraction?" They say, "I don't know. I just feel pressure."
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, some people will say, "Do you feel pain?" I strive not to use the word pain, because
Yeah.
then it conditions your mind to kind of brace, and then you
Yep.
contract and constrict.
Yep.
And
I can
that's,
see that. Yeah.
the body begins to war with the mind and the spirit and
Yeah.
the physical, and you don't want to create that kind of dynamic during birth. I
Right.
really,
It's
I
like
really,
you're making a judgment about how you should feel about whatever
yes,
it is that you're experiencing. So
yes.
then instead of contractions, we have surges, we can have discomfort,
And yeah, and they
pressure,
call it
like you
waves. They
said,
say, "Is the waves coming?" Yes, the wave is
the
coming. It's ebbing
weight.
now, but it's coming. It's coming.
Mhm. And that's what it's like the revolutions. Like,
Yeah.
okay, it's
Hmm.
coming around. It feels like movement. It feels like traveling.
Yes.
Um,
And I've been with women that through each contraction, they would say, "Thank you. Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." And it was such a beautiful experience. Even just the thought of it, I get chills now. And when I witness those women that thank their bodies and the baby for every wave that comes, it's absolutely beautiful. And the baby can hear. That's the other thing as well. The baby can hear in this process. And in my study in Scientology, when you study Dianetics, where it is a training that you audit someone, where you have them return to whatever that trauma is that they have experienced, and they talk themselves, they share the story, and the auditor, the person that's the listener, as they share the story, um, they literally have to return. It's not a remembering. The auditing is not a remembering. And if you're a good auditor, you'll know, oh, he's just saying what he's heard, or she's just saying what she believe it is. But when you return, if the room was cold, you get cold. If you start smelling whatever was in the room, you begin to smell it in that moment.
is that
It
similar to regression?
somewhat
I
with.
remember those commercials. I remember seeing a commercial on just regular TV about that book Dianetics, and it
Mhm.
sounded so interesting.
It
And then
is.
later I was like, "Oh, it's Scientology." Oh no, Scientology.
When I tell you the information that they have, if
Hmm,
more people could just go and have the experience of learning what they have to offer,
hmm,
not becoming a Scientologist, but the
hmm.
information will transform people overnight if they implement and integrate it to their lives. Overnight.
Interesting.
Overnight. So the point I was making about the return and the feeling and the pain and the gratitude of how speaking uh it actually brings a level of ease. It actually lifts something up off of you as you go through it. um
Surrender.
yes, yes, because your mind has shifted to a different perspective of what's happening. And I really wanted every woman to have a painless birth. And when you can say thank you, or you can see it as waves, and you can envision that each of these waves of contractions is bringing this baby down. It's like a internal massage, and sometimes when you get massages like Ralph thing, that stuff is painful. But
Comfortable.
it's got to get in there to get it out, right?
Uh-huh. Now you said painless, so that makes me think a state of neutrality. But if we can get to that kind of state, then there's room for joyful,
Yeah.
blissful,
Yes.
euphoric.
Yes, and yes.
Mhm.
And in that is one of the things is shifting. I remember I was pregnant with Ibrahim, baby number 6, I think. I remember studying pain and pain in labor, and what is it that you can do where women don't have to have that experience. That
Mhm.
I studied pain like crazy, never even telling him the story about all of that I did. And the first
Mhm.
tattoo he got on his arm was pain in big letters, right? I thought that was interesting. I had never told him about that. I was like, what kind of tattoo you got? I said, do you know that's all I studied when I was pregnant with you was about pain? And I was just trying to see how the mind works and what the body does. That is, there's something in the body that naturally blocks those pain receptors, where if you it are in a state of mind through breath, through sound, through uh scent, that can
Mhm.
actually put you in a state where you can go through the waves without it being painful. You feel pressure, you feel the tightness, but not the
But
pain.
you have to feel that. You have to feel what's going on, the movement, and
Yes,
respond to it. You still use those signals. They're useful,
yes.
but
Oh,
the
absolutely.
pain is
Yes.
not useful. So, okay, so that brings me to something I've wondered about birth and death. Um, Once you bring in the medical system, no judgment about it on either end, but they have their medical attributes to them, of course, both birth and death. But birth and death are cultural things, they are human things, not just naturally medical things. It's just the way that we choose to interact.
Yes.
So both of those seem to be really affected by this desire for control. In
Mm-hmm.
the 50s, women were harnessed and their movement was restricted.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I gave birth in the hospital. Yep, only the first time I gave birth in the hospital. I was in my head like, is it okay for me to get on my knees? Because I felt like I needed to be on my knees. Like,
Yes.
I've already got this programming. I've never given birth before, but already got this programming that I have to get permission,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm not the one who's in the driver's seat, or the baby's
Right.
not the one who's in the driver's seat, really.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, they were restricted all kinds of ways. I've seen pictures of women being muzzled.
Mm.
So it seems like it was so much about control.
Yes.
And even the programming, the idea of pain into it, that was control. And the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with death. People, I don't know so much about palliative care, but people who are very close to that, when they're in the hospital, there are
Mm-hmm.
often a lot of restrictions around who can be in the room, what they
Yeah.
eat, but control
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
suffering.
Yes.
I realize now that that was not a question, but can you speak to that anyway?
um, and that is the number one reason why I would prefer home birth over hospital birth. Um, Birthing centers are fine. They are. That's the next step to allaying a person's fears for being at home, because we have been conditioned
Mm-hmm.
to believe that certain things have to happen in the hospital setting for whatever reason. And
Authority, the
yeah,
authority that is outside of ourselves.
that and the bottom line, that dollar, they got to get paid from it. They don't get paid if we're having all of our babies uh, at home or
Mhm.
outside of their facility. And and we having them like back to back, back to back.
Yeah.
It's like, shoots, we gotta get something,
Yeah.
that's why they
Also, they need that placenta money too.
oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's why they took the training, the midwives in the South, and had them train their nurses, and kind of pushed us to the side, because the census was telling them, all these people, where are they coming from? They hadn't went through the hospital. They couldn't keep up with the population.
Right.
And
How long
this,
did it take for that to get normalized, for people to come out of the home and come into the hospital to have their babies? Because at first it was like, baby in the hospital? What? That's where germs
right.
are. That's where sick people are.
Exactly.
How
Exactly.
long did it take
What's that?
to make that transition from
Oh, now that I do not know. I do not
Mhm.
know. Even if I had to go back, I'd have to go back. I do not
Okay.
know how
Okay.
long it took. I just know that's when it started. They wanted to
Okay.
get this level of control. They wanted to be able to get the money. They wanted to be able to find out how many of these people are being born down in the bayou or wherever they were. It was just
Mhm.
children being born. That's what we did. They didn't allow us in the hospital. That,
Right.
so it was insane. So
Mhm.
my reasoning for a home birth is, although some people don't get pregnant at home, you should have your baby where you live. You should have your baby where you conceived your baby. That's just my thinking. Now, that's why I said some people don't have their baby at home. Might be in the back of a car seat. And some people have their babies in the back of a car seat. But
Mhm.
it should be as close to your normal life setting
Yeah. Where you breathe
as
the air.
everything, the same air, the same germs, your family germs, your everything,
Yeah.
and not being introduced into this environment that they make sterile to the point where you get sicker from their apparent sterilization. Um, and then the love, the care, the prayers, the spirit, the energy that's involved in a home birth is totally different than a controlled hospital, and even sometimes a birthing center, especially now that they have them connected to the hospital itself.
Yeah.
The freestanding birthing center, I would go say yes to that before I
Mhm.
say yes to a hospital, but I would say absolute to home birth before I say yes to anything else. But it's for the mom to make the choice to where she feels most comfortable,
Yeah.
and that's where the line gets drawn. Sometimes I'll get to a point where it's like, now I'm not doing hospital if you decide to go change your mind, but I can't. I remember doing that. This was right after the pandemic started slowing down, and I went to Portland, Oregon, to assist a mom to have her baby. She wanted to have it at home. They had got the pool and got all the stuff, and then it was getting close to time, and I saw her pacing, and she said, "I think I want to go to the hospital." I said, "Well, I don't. I ain't going to the hospital. I've done hospitals, but I was like, I ain't going to the hospital." And then she started getting it. She said, I know. We're just going to go on down because I just feel like I need to go. She was nervous. It was her first baby. Um,
Mhm.
and I said, okay, um, let me know when you get there and let me know how things go, as you progress, right? I sat there for a minute. She started packing her bag, and the husband was getting a car and all this stuff. And Spirit said, get your ass. I was like,
Mhm.
I know. Because I was going through my mind the whole time she was getting ready. It's like, you cannot.
Yeah.
Because the last thing
As
I
you
would
go
want
in there.
is to have to come later, one, or something happens and I wasn't there. Certain things are not going to happen on my watch, period. And
Yeah.
they do so much to get me out of the room. I've had them.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, when I got there, the nurse asked me, did I bring my doula certificate? I said, no, ma'am. She said, "Can you go and get it?" And I said, "No, ma'am." And she looked at me like, "I don't believe this bitch." But they were trying to get one, they were trying to get me out of the hospital. So when I came back, they would say, "Oh, we can't let anyone in after hours. We're gonna have to wait." That was the one thing
Yeah.
they were trying to do. The other was that wasn't even their policy. I said, well, one of the reasons why I'm not going to do that, even though I'm serving as her doula, is I'm also her aunt. I'm here on behalf of her mother, and I'm not leaving the hospital until she leaves. And so by the time it was time for me to leave with the placenta, oh, they took a big sigh. And when I left with the placenta, you better know they were on them. The nurse, one of the guys that wanted to do something. I don't know if he's the phlebotomist or not, but it was a man and a woman, and she kept requesting no men in her room, and he just kept coming back. Waited until mom was in the bathroom taking a shower, dad was asleep on the side of the bed, baby sleep, and that's when they came in to try and do something. It took everything in me not to come back up there just ready to blow the whole hospital up. It was so disrespectful and so out of control. And I think her husband woke up uh, fast enough to, because they were on their way over to the isolate, fast enough to like, what are they doing? And then she hurried up out of the bathroom because she could hear voices more than her husband. I said, you know what, these people are so. And I've had stories. I have had some beautiful, beautiful stories of birth and moms getting through, the fire. Because if they don't get you on the front end, they'll try and get you on the back end, where they make you have to go through all these hoops about baby care and getting the tests and all of the exams and the blood and the sugar test and all this stuff, because one, they want to be in control. Two, they got to get paid one way or the other. Just come in and have your baby and use the room and the bed and tell us y'all can go now. No, they got to do something to get paid, and the control of wanting to get whatever they usually getting for their tests, and still the bottom line from the baby, be it their cord blood, the blood from their heel, be it circumcision, the skin from the baby boy. They use everything.
Quite a bit.
They use everything. So
So did she get your niece, did she get her feeling of safety and peace when she went to the hospital?
yes, she did, and then she realized she should have stayed home.
Mm.
Yeah, she realized, but you know,
But how could she know that if she didn't?
yeah,
Mm.
and it was a challenge, and I know it would have went differently at home. The only thing that maybe would have went different is the major difference is her mindset about whether she believes she can do it with just me and her husband present. You have to really fix your mind for a home birth, because there's no doctors coming, there's no nurses, there's no cleanup crew. Everybody that comes for all of those positions are people that you invite personally. There's no one to come and give you the extra diapers and all the stuff that we're used to. Let's take the baby to the
To be there.
nursery, all of that. it's
Hmm.
it's you're relying on yourself for everything,
Yeah.
everything. And it's not a risk, and it's a shame that you have to say that when you have a baby at home, that's the risk you take. When you have a baby, you take a bigger risk going to the hospital. In all actuality, you take a bigger risk, especially even now at all of the things that they're choosing to bring as an authoritative move over us as women while we're pregnant
the
and about to go through
intervention.
labor. That like the one that's the story of the sister in Florida that they held court while she's in the bed, whether she should in the bed at the hospital, whether she should have a C-section or not. Took her to court, virtual court, in her bed about she said no to C-section and they said, oh yes we are. And that right there, when I heard that, even when I'm thinking about it in these past weeks after the birth that I just experienced, it's like that's why a lot of times when I decided I was going to have a home birth, I really didn't tell anybody because I just planned accordingly. Because people talk, and then you got people that trust the medical system to the degree like that baby. No, that girl, no, she don't need to be at home having no doggone baby. So that's where
And
I'm going
that's
to bring
just,
the
it's
baby
not the
24 hours
people
later
you're
or
talking.
however many days. What's
Right. And it's
that?
not the people you're interacting with, it's their programming.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So just being, when you decide to have a home birth, you have to be clear on all of it's on me. I'm taking all of the responsibility for whatever happens in this house and under this roof is mine. And then some people don't want to take that responsibility because if it happens in the hospital, you can really walk in and say the same thing. Everything that happens in this hospital is all of my responsibility and it is on me. I'm just here because I'm entrusting that if there's an emergency, you would do the right thing. And,
You're
and,
right.
and
It's your
according to my desires and wishes, but they don't always consider the desires and wishes of the woman, and it's her baby. And she's the one that carried it for the time that she's carrying it. And then total disrespect for the father, period. In particular, Black fathers. Like, and what are you doing here? And if you don't say husband, a lot of times they, some of the staff are just so disrespectful. Just disrespectful. I remember one of my labors, I was having one of the girls, because all the boys were home births or births outside of the hospital. But I had been wheeled up to my room, and my husband at the time was down filling out administrative papers or whatever. And by the time he came in the door, one of the nurses said, so you're the one that did this to her. He looked at her. He said, excuse me? So, oh, it's just a joke. It's a joke. He said, no, no, we don't play like that. One that did. She said it with an attitude and everything. Like,
she thought that was funny.
yes.
Okay.
Man, they are. He did not play when he came to me. One, he did not play when he came to going in them hospitals. But they just
Yeah.
better be glad that he just had to chill on it because we hadn't had the baby yet, and we knew we had to get to the other side.
Right.
Because otherwise, and I've been with families that when something like that happened, they start packing up. Let's go. We out of here. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm not.
and I think I've had two or three experiences where they packed up and went to another hospital. Period. I didn't say nothing to the next person about nothing. It was an emergency run. We coming over here, and that's that. They don't say, well, we just left this other hospital and this is what happened. No, you just leave there and go there. And then I've had uh, two families that I can remember right off that we out of here, went home, and we decided to have a baby at the house, and it went
Okay.
well. And
We're like, we didn't come here anyway.
exactly. Out of order. Out of order. She wanted to have her children in the room, and one of the nurses said, well, this is not a welfare center or something like that. Her husband was like, she was already about to go on 20,000, but he was the calmer one because she would have blew up the spot. He was like this. She said, call my doctor. He went off on her. She went off on him. And then before he could even, I don't even think he made it there before we left. They were signing, but whatever you got to do, bring the papers because I'm signing them and we're out of here. and hurry up with the sign, because otherwise I'm just going to go out. And please don't consider security, because after this, I would not have my baby in this place. Not at all. Not at all. So it's
Really
been,
going there for lunch.
it's been some traumatic things. A lot of times too, it's ignorance of staff, immaturity. They have not been trained, nor have they been quote unquote desensitized or anything to the way you um, care for Black people. They have
Mm-hmm.
they have a stereotype, and that's that. When it comes
Yeah.
to Muslim women, they have a stereotype, and that's that. When it comes to anyone that looks different, talk different, speak different, and is not what you would call the average Caucasian family, they have a certain stereotype on how they handle them. And I've even noticed that in certain hospitals, they have anything for the Jewish community locked away for the Jewish community. Kosher, you don't touch it. That's their stuff. Our stuff is over here with the pork in it. I'm just saying, it's all the stuff. I was like, well, how do you know it doesn't have pork in it? I'm Muslim. Don't just assume that you can put this inside of my child, or you can give this to whoever's coming in for snacks or whatever. It's, I know it's their world. They have considered everything. They really have considered everything, but they consider in a lump sum of how they want to care for our people versus how. And if your insurance looks good, oh, they're gonna work you a little differently. They're gonna still have their stereotypes, but they're gonna try and work you a little differently. When I tell you I'm not gonna say I've seen it all, and not on any arrogant level, but I've seen from the worst case scenarios to some beautiful cases. And I've been in the birthing rooms of almost every surrounding hospital in the state of Michigan, around Detroit. I've delivered in Atlanta, I've delivered in Oregon, I've delivered, there's one other place down south, I think. I try to remember, I know it's like three other places outside of the city of Detroit where I've been, and the program is still the same. It's still the same. It's like going into the Black community and you see church, liquor store, church, liquor store,
Yeah.
cannabis shop, church, strip mall with the Family Dollar. That it's the same way in the hospital. They have a certain protocol they're going to follow when you walk in the door, from how soon they're going to see you, and then they have the good cop, bad cop, where they either send in the one that's really hard and harsh and strict and this, then they send in the one that's going to win you your trust, and you let your guard down, and then they come back and bring whatever they got to bring, or convince you or sway you to do one thing or another. But it's part of their program. It's part of their teaching. They've been taught, this is how you do, this is what you do when you have this kind of patient, this is what you do when this happens, this is how you do this. I had one nurse be in a room with us, and she was like, oh my God, I said, how long have you been a nurse? She said, I've been a nurse for about 3 or 4 years. She said that was her first vaginal birth she had ever witnessed. She said it was just so beautiful. She just kept crying. She's like, it's just so beautiful. I've never seen a baby born like that. My whole mind went like, you have got to be kidding me. You've been working as a nurse in this hospital for 3 years and you've never seen a vaginal birth. That just said something to me about how it's set up now.
And
You
that's
know?
not intentional. How
Mm-mm.
how recently was this?
Um, 2015, 14 or 15. Yeah, 2014 or 15.
They've been working that program.
Mhm.
So we were talking about surrendering, and we were talking about surrender, but we were talking earlier about resistance. You
Yeah.
have this strong feeling of resistance when it came to being responsible.
Yeah.
And yet, um, a few years ago, you have started training other birth workers who
Mm-hmm.
have gone out into the community. I remember when we spoke about you joining this doula program that was at Focus Hope. And
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's so cute. And so what happened between there and the
Yeah.
training of all the and dispatching of
Right.
all these wonderful doulas?
With the training for Focus Hope, my initial reasoning for going is because of that transition between um, my divorce and getting back on my feet. I didn't do a whole lot of birth work, right? So someone, I don't know who it was, called me and said, they got this program, I need you to show up. Showed up. We were there, all these nurses and doulas from everywhere. I was like, where the heck y'all been? I've been looking like, all these
Lord.
people? Y'all out here doing work? I don't know nobody. Maybe about 3 people. And so they talked about the program. Half of the program was for doula training, and the other half was for breastfeeding certification. Of course, I took the doula training side. I did learn a lot of things to add to my toolkit, and it reinvigorated my desire to want to do the work again. That was the one thing. But what I had been noticing over time, because I've always wanted to do a doula training, but what I've noticed over time is that when you train, they leave out the spiritual perspective. You know, as Black women in our
You
community,
certainly don't. Mm-hmm.
Black people in our community, we have to. The spiritual perspective is 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 trying to wear shoes without a sole. I mean, what's the purpose if you try to protect your feet? What's the purpose if you try to protect your feet if you don't have a sole in it? So it's like no spiritual aspects. That's something that you can add to it and make it your own personal when you do your thing. No, I wanted it to be the very core of why you do
Mm-hmm.
this, because doula work is not for the faint of heart, and
Mm-hmm.
doula work is not for the rich and famous. You are not, unless and until we get to a position where things that we need for our people that can be provided consistently, because it's different when you can get one client that'll pay you 1,000, 2,000, or however much they gonna pay you for being their doula or their midwife, versus somebody that absolutely just needs a loving, gentle, mothering, nurturing woman in her ear by her side, not knowing what, she barely understood how she got pregnant, let alone what all's happening.
And how
She's
to pay for it.
she's not even thinking about how much this is gonna cost me. I
Mm-hmm.
wish there is a day where doulas would not have to be, the mothers would not have to be charged to have a doula. And it's just a whole program where the doulas are getting incentives and getting paid and getting covered for all the things. And they just be released out into the community and just get your people, and be there and work through them, because everybody has their type too. They have to choose their type of doula that they
Yeah.
work best with, so that you're most comfortable in that. Um, so the spiritual aspect was missing. And and the spiritual aspect and the self-care of the doula. Because the doula, we running here and there like Hagar in the wilderness. No, they just running, baby after baby after baby. Your house falling apart. Your husband ready to divorce you. You don't have no money for gas to get to the hospital or to the mom, but you still
Yeah.
want to do this work. No,
Caregiver.
self care. You get back because your husband been mad. You were gone 2 days longer than you said you're gonna be gone. He's not available because he's not understanding. It's a It's a whole teaching and training process that goes along with just being doing the work of a doula or being a birth worker. He has to really understand, your family has to really understand what you're doing. This is a sacred work. And if you're going to be a gatekeeper, you're going to be right there to witness the birth of these, I call them Buddhas, Golden Child, Baby Jesus, whichever one, prophets that are coming through the wombs of these women. You cannot treat them or the work lightly. And that was my whole reasoning for going in the direction that I went in. Some people don't, this is just a little sidebar. Some people, when they see me, they don't see me as a certified doula. I'm just out here winging it. Somebody told me that one time. They don't see me as a certified midwife. I'm just out here. Whenever I decide, I'm just real flighty about it. I just do it, right? They don't know what I do. They just don't like the competition. I'm not in this work for competition. But it reminds me of sometimes when Muslims from other countries look at us in the Nation of Islam and say, you're not a real Muslim. Why am I not a real Muslim? Because what? I wasn't born in Saudi Arabia. I didn't come from South Sudan. Which one is it? Or is it because we say we follow the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Farad Muhammad? Which reason? Whatever that is. But for them to compare in that way is the same way when they say I'm not this or that. Because whatever I'm not measuring up to in this world, when I decided to do this work, I did not want anyone to say, "Oh, that's my student," because I'm not your student. I am sent directly by the intervention and the divinity and ordination of God Himself. No one else called me to this work but Him. So for them to say, "Oh yeah, that's me. That's all me right there." And no, you did not. No, it wasn't you that was there that sparked that interest when I first started learning and wanting to do that. This goes back lifetimes after lifetimes after life. So, am I perfect in what I do? No. I do what I do. I give thanks. I pray that I'm pardoned for the things I may have missed. But this is my work and I'm passionate about it and I don't play about it. There are people that they do other things. I'll put it like that before I start going on, because when it comes to birth work, and the woman, I'll go after the brother if he's not mindful enough when it comes to the mother and bringing forth that child. You are not that important. Not that you are not important. You are not that important. In Islam, there's a short story in a hadith about one of the caliphs who was like the companion of Prophet Muhammad. Yeah. And he's just walking and talking with the prophet, and I'm paraphrasing too. Walking and talking with the prophet, and he said, "Who's the most important person after Allah?" You know, he said, Prophet Muhammad says, "Your mother." He said, "And then?" He said, "Your mother." He said, "And then?" He said, "Your mother." And then he said, "And then your father." So when they say 75% of the work is with the woman, that's partly what that is and where it comes from. But at the same time, that's how important our role is and the significance of our existence is when it comes to anything. Most of these big businesses don't run without the woman. And most times it's Black women that's really making it happen. But the woman gets those things cranking and sustains them. So whether they are CEO, whether they're cleaning the hallways, or whether it's the wife of the CEO, he don't do or whoever he chooses to go see after hours. I'm just saying there's a woman involved somewhere, or he goes to return to his mother, his big sister, his auntie. There's a woman involved somewhere. And until we shift our perspective about the divinity of our role and who we are, even including women, um,
Yeah.
this world is not going to get what it's deserving in the grand
Mhm.
scheme of things in the most beautiful way until that happens. Because if we as women decided that there would no longer be any kind of humanity, we never have babies again. They would have to go to the laboratories and do the cloning and the test tubes and the jars with the babies floating and everything. They would never have anything. And we are the original women who began from the beginning with all of this. And until we get that shift in perspective, once the shift in perspective has shifted, the respect, the honor, why not? Everyone has come from the womb of a woman that
Mhm.
we know of, every human being that we can identify as human.
As human.
Yeah, has come from the womb
Mhm.
of a woman. And even that even if they were in a laboratory, they came from a womb of something. A womb
Mhm.
of something, and it had to be some kind of darkness going on somewhere. That's still reflective of feminine. It's still
Yeah.
reflective of womb. So yeah.
I think the shift is being felt
Oh
like
yeah.
presently. Yeah, the return to that value of the matriarchy, we'll just say
Yes,
it.
it's definitely returning. You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely returning. And we as women have a part to play in that as we become more engaged in self empowerment and more knowledgeable about ourselves physically,
Mhm.
mentally, and spiritually, because we are absolutely totally different from the man on every level, on every
And,
level, on
and you have
every
to
level.
function that way and stop being resistant.
Yes,
Yeah. Mhm.
yes, yes. So that is what got me all the way around to the doula training. As much as and I still may do some other courses. We've been talking about online things that is actually teaching skill and technique. But
Yeah.
really, my focus in that doula training is you can't doula anybody if you don't doula yourself.
Mhm.
And
So
if
did
you,
you also include the families in when you did the training?
yes, yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Um, and then with that in the with the families, I want to do more of that because that little advertisement that I told you that I made on the Facebook page years ago,
Yeah.
that was
Mhm.
on there. All of that thing, like bringing in the family, incorporating the family into the doula training, and getting your team set up, and not you. If you want to be solo and maybe one other partner as a doula in business,
Mhm.
you go to the families and you incorporate the families as the team,
Mhm.
because that's who's going to be there when you go home, and they need to know what to do versus you trying to be there for everything. No, you can, and at
Mhm.
some points you should, but no, in the wee hours of the night, on the days that you got to go home and take care of your children, somebody's going to need to know something that you know, but they don't, to help her to do whatever she needs to do to get through the days and through the nights with a newborn. And postpartum is just as critical, if not more, than prenatal, because now you're recovering, and now you're
Yeah.
recovering from this whole dynamic. And if that
Yeah.
birth
That
was
fourth
traumatic,
trimester.
yes,
Mhm.
if that birth was very traumatic, then that's a whole healing process within itself on the
Yeah.
other end, with not only the doula but the family.
Mhm. Have you
And
included in the oh, did we disconnect? Did you include or have you included in the training anything to do with the full spectrum perspective?
no,
Full spectrum.
not with those last two classes. Not with those last two classes. My main focus was doula self care. We covered a lot because I share a lot of stories. So the inside of the stories of sharing is where you learn a lot of the lessons,
Words are
because
so
sometimes
important.
our perspective, I don't, I don't want to get doulas comfortable with quote unquote textbook training, because it's not going to always happen that way. That hands
Yeah.
on real life, this woman is different. The father is different from this situation. The mom is different. You have all kinds of um, other things happening that has the impact on the mother who's going into labor. So being able to troubleshoot and integrate families into the whole process is a work that's not in a textbook. You know, those kinds of things you can't find in a textbook until we write them, until we create them ourselves. But just
Yeah.
right off the rip, as a doula, and you have families where there are two females that want to have a child, and the one female is the mother and the other one is her husband or her wife, however they
Right.
call it. You got to be prepared mentally for that, to go into that situation. You might have an interracial couple. You might have two different people that don't even speak the language you speak. How are you going to incorporate what you do without having to speak? And if you don't know their language and you're not able to get a translator, how will you work with this family? So those were the kinds of things that we were incorporating inside that training. I wasn't teaching them how to rub bellies and hold the mom up or talk in her ear and the kind of words to say. You have
Those
to have
things that you do intuitively.
you have to have the spirit to be a doula, because you don't know how long it's going to be. You can never estimate or guess the length of time you're going to be there with that mom. And if you think you're going to go in and put in 5 hours and she's there 2 days, you're not ready for the work if you can't stay there that long with her. Really. And if you have a team and you switch off or you incorporate family as part of the team, then you can do that. But if you're in for the long haul and that mother
Yeah.
goes into labor and she's still not sure and things are still not um, transitioning, then either you're going to leave early and say, I'll be back, or you're going to be there until she gets to where she needs to be. And that is determined on the quality of doula that you want to be. Same for the midwife. I'm not one to be like, oh, okay, everybody, baby's here. Yeah, I'll see you. I'll call me later. Mm-mm. It's like I cannot leave until I know that the mom is comfortable with herself, with the baby, and everybody is good. And the only other circumstance that I may leave early, and this is from trying to play both roles of doula and midwife inside of this whole thing, is um, if there's something brewing, and it might be a mother that's ready for me to get the hell out the house, or the husband that's just like, we ready to have our house back. So sometimes if I can kind of feel that undercurrent, I'll give full instruction, and then speak directly to the mom, because that's the one who called me in alongside the baby. I'm not I respect what the mother and father has to say, like the mother of the mother. When I'm saying mother, I'm talking about like the mother,
Yeah.
the
Uh,
daughter. I respect what they have to say, or auntie or best
grandma.
friend. I respect what they have to say, but who makes the final decision on what she wants is her.
Yeah.
And if it gets a little rocky or undercurrent where it feels like they're ready for me to leave, then I'll leave instructions, talk with her, let her know what's happening. I'm leaving, leave numbers for contacts, and then I may call and check back in. If I feel something even different, I may want to do a FaceTime with them. Um, but that's where the intuitive part of being a doula came in on the title of the course. Being intuitive enough to pick up on the unseen, the unsaid, you know, and still handle it in a way where you don't create enemies and you don't create a area of danger for the mom.
Hmm.
So it
It's
it
so
comes.
interesting to the way that you're describing working intimately with families in this way. There are so many parallels with working with families, dealing with uh, the exits, the end of life
Yeah,
transitions. So it's just two sides of the same coin.
exactly. I was gonna say it's the same thing because then you have these children and I've been on those sides. Oh my God. You have children, you have parents, you have husbands, you have boyfriends that all wanna do something or take
Yeah.
credit or be the one to make the final call or those
Right.
kinds of things. And then you have those who want to do everything just so. And sometimes it's just too much, and that's never what
Mhm.
or disregard what the
Right.
person that has made the transition decided prior to.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Or
we're
even
going to
in
do it
the
this way.
process of the transition happening, the the focus kind of goes to the family. That's interesting.
Yes.
So this one was the first one that I pulled, and this is the underlying meaning: release perfectionism.
Interesting. I love it.
In Virgo.
Wow.
So, so those processes.
I love
So
that.
yeah, pull three cards. So knowing what you know about the spectrum, about the spectrum, the continuum, has it made your personal hellos and goodbyes, um, I want to say easier, or has it given you more ease? Yeah.
Absolutely. It has. And prior to the shift in both, uh, the shift in my perspective as a midwife and a doula, and the shift in my perspective, um, seeing loved ones or the baby of the mom make their transition, uh, it has caused me to know and be present in the moment
Mm,
with that mom, with that baby, with that family, however many minutes I have in between there. From the time I get to the hospital door of the room that the mom is in to the time my that door closes to my back when I leave, what am I doing in that time span? And at the end, on the other end, the same thing. What am I doing in this time span? How am I even showing up? What did I do before I got to the door? How did I prepare myself when I got there, before I got there? And while I'm there, am I lamenting about, oh my God, she about to. No, you spend life with life until life transitions to the next life.
in the moment. There's nothing else but the
Yes,
moment
yes. Because
present.
even in birth and even after the mom delivers, we don't know what shifts. I've never been in position to have a mom not make it in birth. I've never been there. But we don't know what happens in that time because that altered state can do so many different things. And that's why I wanted to bring in that spiritual perspective because
Yeah.
hospital or anywhere else, there are other things happening on other realms at the same
Yeah.
time. And you
So
want to be present.
that's your second time bringing that up. Can you go into it is said that a woman never comes as close to death as she does when giving birth.
Yes.
But we're not necessarily talking about death as in danger or some sort of medical event,
Right.
but death as in spirit,
Yeah.
joining and connecting with other realms.
Yes.
Can you
Yeah.
go into that some more?
The the interesting dynamic that I'm finding about both birth and death is they're one and the same. They're like the yin and the yang of life. And when you're at the universe, everything, the energy, everything in the atmosphere knows this transition is about to happen. It's there. The spirit realm knows the transition is like they're it's like a waiting. It's like spring. When the seasons change, that the buds are starting to come off the tree and you're going to see flowers soon. So there's a energy in the air that causes everyone to be on a unconscious alert or conscious alert, depending on which realm you're in, where they're waiting. And it's a gateway, a thin line between entering and exiting on both ends. And I've been present to see that as well. And I've been present to see during birth ancestor sitting over in the corner while mom is in labor, uncle standing over here while mom is in labor. One of the last births I did was 3 people, and they were kind of lined up. One was inside the bathroom, at the bathroom door, and a little further out back into the hallway. 3 of them awaiting this baby, right? Um, I remember being at one birth, and the way she was moving and the sound she was making, and the intensity of the energy in the room, all of a sudden the wind blew and made this window open. It was like the wind came through. It was like a spirit that came through and cleansed the room. It literally felt like a whirl came in there, cleansed that room. And something about whatever happened at that point, I don't know if the baby shifted downward, or she could feel like her water break, or it's a pop. Sometimes it pops because of that tension where the water is in front of the head. When it's pressing down on the cervix, there's a little water on the head, but if the baby's head is there and the pressure is there, it causes that uh, amniotic sac to pop. Like literally, you can hear it pop, and the water just go. And it's not a whole lot, but the popping still happens. But she was like, oh, and she jumped. And in that moment, once that spirit of the wind came through, she got up off the floor, left out of that room, and went into another room. And she just found her spot by the radiator. And that baby came right down in my hands. I was like, okay, I need something because this baby's about to come. And he passing me everything. I was like, that's, and then she came right down in my hands. So that energy is so not only intense but present. That is why you do your other work.
Right.
Before you get there, you're sending, the energy and the messages to your destination, and usually, in my consultations, if the woman is open to preparing her space before the baby comes, then she does the saging or whatever she wants to use to cleanse her space, to make it welcoming, and just to cleanse and purify the atmosphere before the arrival of anything, and just kind of or music. That happened
Yeah.
with one sister. We did a birth, and we're sitting and waiting. She called me. She was in the thick of it, but not really just yet.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I got there, it seemed like it amped up a little bit. I guess she felt a
Mm-hmm.
little more comfortable. This is her first baby, and I think she was either 40 or almost 40. This is her first baby, so now it's like, okay, Spirit Traveler is here. We're about to do this. So the music is playing, and her and her husband was in the other room, and I can hear the intensity building. But then that music shifted, and I promise you, inside that room started filling up with ancestors in white. Like, I can still feel it. It was emotional. The drums shifted. Those drums started playing like they were live. Like, I promise you, it was not in my imagination. the drums started playing like it was alive. Like, here comes the king, here comes the king. And I went into the bathroom. She said, "Hi, I'm coming." I was like, "Yep, yep, 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 yep. Okay, okay." I got situated in the room, and then the dad had the camera this way, and her other daughter was over the toilet bar trying to get to the other side. So if you want to get it, you're gonna have to get behind me because ain't no way you're gonna get pictures any other way. I think she may have had maybe 4 pushes, and that baby was here. And then the music stopped and changed into something else. I said, "You got to be kidding me." As it happened, and if it's on, I think part of it is you can hear it in the recording, because I was like, if it's on video, you can on in the background, you can hear it. You hear the shift, and then you can hear the shift again after the baby was born. I was like, because at the door of the bathroom, there was a tall brother ancestor, and I asked her, I described him to her, and she said, "Oh, that's my dad." I said, "Well, I'm telling you, he was here." I didn't know any of her family. I never seen pictures of anybody. I never knew that she had so many freaking ancestors on the other side. And who he is and why they were so happy to see his arrival. It was incredible. And that's that part that I referred to, that it gets more intense and more deeper spiritually for me when I am in it. And that's the other thing, is that when you do not incorporate that aspect into the work, and you're doing doula work at home and home births in particular, it happens in the hospital too, mind you. For me, I've experienced that. But when you're at someone's home, it's more intensified. If you don't know what to expect, it may scare you, and then you shift how you do what you do in your interaction with the mom and the family. But just being prepared, I believe that a person has to be present and aware to see and know when ancestors are in the room. You know, if you're a doula and you've never had that experience, they were probably there, and they probably sensed it as a doula, but that was nothing that they would ever really talk about, you know. But if that's their part of their training, then they're not really like looking for it, but they're aware of the presence of. So the gateway on both ends are the same. There's a possibility for other spirits to come through and exit as they come through, sometimes in favor of the well-being of the family, and other times not. And I've been at house cleansings where, after a birth that happened, where a entity came through during the birth of the baby, and they called us in to do a house clearing because he was still there, but it was a brother that was trapped in the in between, that had been in that particular house before they moved in. And when we went there, I don't know if I'm different from other people, but I promise you, I saw the whole thing. I saw why he was still there. I saw where he was, where the incident happened for him, how and why it happened, what part of the house it was in, because we went from the top to the basement. And then and his reasoning for wanting to come back through, because he had been in the in between in the house. So when she had her home birth, he was like, "I gotta get out of here." You know, it's like a "I gotta get out of here" kind of thing. And he came through. And
It's
it
definitely a
was,
portal.
oh yes. And it was her 3-year-old daughter, I think she was 3, that kept seeing him. And she either kept crying and looking and was trying to explain it, but she couldn't explain what she was seeing. So the sister called me and 2 other sisters, and we went over to work on giving the brother, once we realized, because we asked him, what did he want? Why was he here? Why did he come through at this time? And he just wanted to get out. It was something about the house where his energy was trapped in that space. And he just wanted, so we did our work and we let him ascend out. That's the best way I can put it. And then we went back around the outside of the house to do the cleansing to make sure everything was clear. And after that, the sister that called me, who was the mother of the one that had the baby, but grandmother to the little girl who kept seeing it, she had no issues after that. No more issues of seeing something that didn't belong that her mom couldn't see, but she could. So those portals, it's a portal, it's a gateway, it's open because the spirit is coming through with the baby. The baby is just coming through to house the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So
on where is that listed on your the fees that have to be covered? Like, when do they check a box like study
yeah,
spirit removal?
you
That
know,
you can't put that in a box.
yeah, no. And
You,
each although it's only been 2 classes for the doula training, each one is different because each student brings something that they require to learn with them.
mm,
And they also come with something to bring to it that makes the pot of soup perfect. But yeah, they come with something, but they come with something also that they absolutely need, that brings out of me. Because a lot of times when it's time for me to teach somewhere, I don't do a whole lot of notes and stuff like this is what I'm gonna teach when I get there. And I like to get wherever I'm going a little early so that I can watch everybody that comes in, and then I read the spirit, I read the energy, and then I'm instructed to what I need to say based on who walked in the room and what they needed for themselves. And even if I do get there a little later, or I might write a few notes like this is what I'm gonna say, I never get to those notes. I never get to those notes because the same thing happens. The people are coming for answers, and there's a lot of people in the audience that don't know how to articulate what they need to know and don't want to be looked at a certain way, may not be able to speak it in the terms that someone will understand them. There's so many dynamics when it comes to needing information. And if
yeah.
you are a Christian versus someone that's in Ifa, you got these different dynamics in terms of how they believe and what they believe about spirit and energy. So
Mm-hmm.
I get directive every time to do something different for each group of women. And it's really, really beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I always incorporate going to the river as a part of the ceremony, usually
Yes.
the morning
Yes.
before um, the morning before the graduation day or this main ceremony. And that going to the river is a process. It's not just a thing that we do because we do go to the river. No, the river
Mm-hmm.
is where you're going to release whatever you're going to leave behind if you're really ready to do this work. And then you're going to
Yeah.
bring back something from the river that's going to help you get through the work that you intend to do. And because the river is vast. It's not as vast as the ocean, but it carries information from times past that you're going to need when you do this work. And it's not textbook. And however many stories, it'll be a story that someone is telling that you will get the lesson greater than someone say in chapter 2, when the spirits enter the room and no. And no. So
The man just can't find his way out. You said you said that you don't know if you're different from other people. You actually said that out loud. I don't know if you've heard yourself say that.
yeah,
So this one is
What
in
does
Aquarius.
what does it say?
This is Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius.
Oh wow.
Honor your individuality.
Mm,
It's you standing on your truth and who you are and your authority
yep.
from many lifetimes back.
And
Also,
that's what I'm here to not only learn the lesson but live out with all of that energy I talked about in the 11th house.
yeah,
That's that.
exactly. The
That's
11th house. That's
that's
too
that.
funny. Also, we have Mercury,
Mm.
communication and truth.
Do you know
So what's that about?
that is incredible. Okay, so Mercury is the like the ruler, the ruling energy of my entire chart. I have 4 planets in Mercury, which Gemini energy, in my ninth and 10th house, and I have 4 planets in Virgo, Mercury in my 12th house.
But you said you didn't like to do a lot of verbal communication. So what kind of communication is it? All of it?
That and 10,000 journals in my house.
Okay.
I write, I write. I need to publish, but I write.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing too. In this work, I'm trying to remember which birth it was, which birth and which journey under the entheogens. They instructed me that I had to open my mouth and speak. I had to open my mouth and speak. I think that was, I want to say my 9 gram journey. I was trying, usually when I'm the first 3 that I did with the mushrooms, I did a lot of talking. It was recorded on CD and it was uh, written scribe. And when I got to 9 grams, I could not speak. It wouldn't allow me to open my mouth. But while it had my mouth closed and it wouldn't let me speak then, it was giving me the message that I had to open my mouth and speak. I had to open my mouth and speak. And the same with one of the bursts. It's like she needs to hear your voice. Because a lot of times we do telepathic work with just me and the mom, um, me
And the
and the
baby.
baby.
Uh-huh.
And so, and that was the other point I was going to make too. With that, the telepathic work I find critical and sometimes even necessary too, because in Dianetics, they say the best births are silent births because the way people get engrams is because of the words that they're saying while the mom and baby are going through the birthing process because the contractions or waves are intense, which is considered painful. So that memory of that moment is being impressed in the cells of both the mother and child. And if you're speaking words inside of the trauma occurring at the same time, it gets impressed in the cells of the mother. So sometimes if you say, this baby is slow as hell, while the mom is in a contraction and breathing, you are more likely to find that that baby, based on his level of understanding of slow, will be that when he gets here. If you say, woo wee, Speedy Gonzalez, or something like that, inside
Mm-hmm.
of the pain of that baby's gonna be fast doing everything, or whatever other word you might say that is a directive of action of being will be incorporated. Like, oh, he can't breathe. A lot of times when that is said during traumatic times, most babies end up having like asthma or some kind of difficulty with their lungs, throat area because of those statements made
Like
during.
speaking into the water.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So it's important to have a silent birth for the most part. And if you're going to say words that won't create like a level of trauma in
yeah,
the memory of the cells, you know.
yeah. You can't say anything nice.
Right, because
Mm,
when you're receiving that kind of intensity of pain, um, the 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 reactive mind kicks in, and
mm,
the subconscious opens up, and all it's going to remember is the sound of whoever's voice, the smell of the room, the temperature of the room, what the room looked like, what it felt like in that moment, and any other visual that came up for you inside of the traumatic feeling of the pain itself. So,
mm.
a quiet birth is good, and at the same
Yeah.
time, being able to be tuned in enough to know certain words that you can say to get a mom through that, even if it's just the waves, because it's usually when the body is in that moment. Now, when she comes up out of it, that's why a lot of times when nurses come in and they want to just get to chatter, and I was like, Paul, she's having a contraction. We're gonna wait until she's done. You know, sometimes they don't like that. It's like, isn't this why you're here? She's in labor. We're not gonna have all that. You're not gonna be asking her questions about signing papers in the middle
Mm-hmm.
of a contraction. We're not doing
They're
that.
supposed to be in control. You're
Yes.
interrupting the control.
Yes.
Mm.
So yeah, no. So that's just another one of those things.
Why were you inclined not to speak out loud?
Hmm. That's a nice question. As I came into the as because I'm not fully there yet, I'll put it that way. As I am coming into the fullness of my womanhood and coming into the fullness of owning my power and trusting my gifts, um, I hadn't always been that way, right? It was either I was shy, it was either, which is the main either reason, in several lifetimes before, because I was either speaking truth to falsehood, or speaking truth to authority, or speaking something that needed to happen that the people of authority wasn't ready to happen. What does that one
Mhm.
say?
This is back to the Mercury communication and truth.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Many of my lifetimes, I have been exiled, I have been hung, I have been put to the cross. I have been sent off to, if I'm going to do that, you need to be way out in the woods somewhere. I have
Mm,
had to go underground. I have even done my work inside of monasteries, um, so that I wouldn't get killed. You know, believe that I'm a nun, and I was, believe that I'm a monk, and I was, but I was able to do my work inside of there and it not be judged and I not be exiled. But it would still be in isolation away from the last place they would think to look.
yeah.
And I've
So it's
had lifetimes
protection.
like that. It's like all in my 12th house and some in my 6th house. You can see it, and my north node is in my 5th house. But so this lifetime, that's why
Mhm.
all of that stuff is in the 11th house, for me to get
Mhm.
my butt out there and open my mouth and not be
Yeah.
afraid to speak my truth in Aquarius's house and in Uranus. So
Okay.
your Uranus don't always get placed in its own house. You know, you find it could be in any of the houses, but it's there in Aquarius. So that's like double energy, you know.
Hmm. Oh yeah, they
So
don't have to be together. Okay.
So it's like, okay. Oh, it's like, okay. It's like, I say get out there once. I'm saying get out there twice. Get out there. So this time around, even though the first half of my life, I taught and I shared, but I stayed quiet about those deeper truths that I saw, the injustices, the unrighteous behavior of the apparent authorities living hypocritically against what they say out their mouth and how they live, you know, and not by no means have I not behaved in a hypocritical manner, like saying something, I thought you said you don't eat meat and you see me over here eating some McDonald's or whatever. I'm talking about those things that you will lose your life over, where, people will say one thing and they really don't mean it, but they're saying it for authority purposes or for the sake of getting the respect they deserve in the position that they're trying to hold. Whatever that thing is, I would see it, but I wouldn't speak against it. It's like, now I just saw. It's just like it's one of these. This what came to mind. Me and my analogies. It's like seeing a beautiful wedding and turning around 2 minutes later, and the husband is in the other room with a woman that's not his wife. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened? Or going to a church or a sacred place, and everybody is looking pure and looking beautiful, and over here something else is happening. I'm
Like,
that is
contrast.
not what we just talking about. And then and then those same people will turn around and denigrate, the homeless or the underdog or the man who can't control his mouth and the woman who can't control her sex drive. Those kinds of things. It's like, where does the balance? You say you're part of doing the work of the Savior. Why are you talking about the very ones you're supposed to be saving? Why is this? And I was always in other
So
lifetimes.
hypocrisy on 10.
Yes. In other lifetimes, I spoke against it and even fought against it. And in this lifetime, I knew it to be true. And in my earlier years, I would not speak a word. I would not speak a word for fear of not being liked, for fear of somebody leaving me, for fear of being left alone. All the things where I had already been alone, because I knew what that was going to be like if I did that.
Reasonable fears, but not enough to make you not be who you're supposed to be. Where's
Exactly.
your Chiron?
In my sixth house in Pisces.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Sixth house in Pisces and retrograde.
That was the thing.
It's retrograde. I was like, why? So a lot of internal. I think I have 4 planets retrograde as well in my chart. Retrograde, Chiron. And no, Chiron's not a planet, but that's one of the retrogrades. Retrograde in Jupiter, retrograde in Saturn, and retrograde in Neptune in my chart. So it's a lot of double internal work that I have going on, needed to do, because they're all in the early part when you in some charts and some teachings, because everybody doesn't look at charts the same way or explain them. It still has the same meaning sometimes, but the placements are different. Because all of the retrogrades happen on the lower half of my chart, sometimes if you don't really consider past lives, then they say the earlier part of your childhood or your earlier part of your life, that's what you had to deal with. And then when you swing around to the top, that's your older life as you grow and mature, and where you're headed versus where you've been. So Um, yeah, she didn't say a mumbling word.
Okay.
Oh,
So
goodness.
as you are speaking, what do you wish more people knew about this continuum?
Mm. I wish more people knew really how powerful we are and how exponentially powerful we are in moments of birth, because it is the woman and it is the baby, but it's everyone involved, you know. And scripture shows it with the three wise men coming. It's a big deal, you know,
Mm,
having a baby arrive on this planet and the mother having to bring forth this child is a big deal. But because we have done it so much, it's just, oh yeah. Because I know my first two babies was, oh yay. And after the others say, oh yeah, she pregnant again, don't you? It's no big deal anymore. But it's a
yeah,
big deal every single freaking time. It is a
mhm,
big deal. And to
yeah,
me, when we understand that it is a big deal, because we're bringing forth prayers that you don't even remember you prayed. We're bringing forth answers from way back that they lied about, that they lied and covered up. Our babies are coming through and bringing them forward and exposing the truth, and the exposing the truth and dismissing the lies of what they tried to keep from us. We're bringing forth gods on top of goddesses on top of gods, and they're sacred and they have specific assignments for this planet, and we do not take them serious enough. After they get so old in their lives, they deem them this and that and this and that, and so they say, okay, well, we just gonna come special. So now they got ADD, ADHD, autism, Down syndrome, all kinds, but they're geniuses. These
mhm,
babies are geniuses. Okay, so you don't want to accept this right. We're gonna come the way you think is wrong, and we still
mhm.
coming, and we still coming to
Fully
bring the
evolved.
message. Huh?
Yes,
So
as these fully evolved beings
yes. So my
who,
thing is, I
who
wish
tolerate
that
us anyway.
they accepted and understood that it's a big deal, and the person bringing forth the baby and the baby himself or herself is big deal. And of course, the father. We're not forgetting the father, but we can't acknowledge the father until we give and the mother and the mother and the mother her acknowledgement. When we only can give the mother her acknowledgement one time at birth, and then everybody goes back to work and sleep and stuff and things, and we get forgotten about. We get
Yeah.
we get forgotten about. We just get forgotten about. And please don't have more than two, because you really forgotten about. I'm just saying. But that part, and then for the father to understand his role is just as great as a farmer who wants to provide food for his family, as a whole group that's uh, growing, tending to farmland on large masses, and the person that tends the land is just as important as the ones who take it away to have it sold. Um, Knowing their importance to the mother and the baby, and following through without being disturbed because it rained too much, or the lotus came and ate half the crops or anything. No, you still have to tend to it. You still have to tend to it. Mom's not happy, baby's not happy. They cry all day. That boy's been crying since he was born and he's 3 now. No, you still have to tend to it. You still have to.
Yeah.
So when men, fathers who are responsible for the very seed that made all of this come to being are more tentative. This is the thing that I'm hoping for, is that they become more attentive, and not just at birth and not just during pregnancy, but all the way through the process. Even when they're grown and the father is still alive, all the way in to that young boy and that young girl married process. Yes, well, that's married. Didn't that mean I step back? No, sir. That's when the dad even moves in more. Same for the mother. The mother moves in more because even though she's with someone new, and not move in to be in their business, but move in to keep a watchful eye. Because if you're still part of my future, you still have to be looked after, looked after, and looked over. So you got 2 children. Those are the only 2 children you have. That's the only 2 children you have. Those are the only 2 you have to look after and look over. You don't have to be in all their business. You don't have to be living in their house. They don't have to be paying you some money to be here. Just look after them. Keep a watchful eye. Just keep a watchful eye. You don't have to tell them how to raise their children. You don't have to do all that stuff. If the mom and the dad is open to anything of wisdom, then good. But no, that's still your child. I believe they still should keep a watchful eye over their children, even as grown adults. Yeah,
Agreed.
that's just how I see it. I wish that it would continue in that way. Um, and when we're not talking about micromanaging or anything like that, it's just still keeping a watchful eye, because that's still that prayer. That's still that prayer that you prayed in the darkness. That's still that song you sung over and over while you were pregnant with them coming forth. That's still that genius brain that's bringing forth. Because
You're
everybody
seeing it
blooms.
through.
Yes, 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 and
Mm-hmm.
everybody don't bloom at the same time. I had a few children that were late bloomers, married with children. You know, didn't get
Mm-hmm.
it, and so what kind of couple of them that still don't get it, and not in any disrespectful way, but it happens. We have this perspective of, and it has a lot to do with a lot of things. It has a lot to do with their chart. It has a lot to do with society. It has a lot to do
Your
with
culture.
just, yes. And
Mm-hmm.
when all of those things aren't at play at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't implement them and get the result that you expect. Like, no, you're supposed to be a grown man at 18. Who said? Who said
Mm-hmm.
grown man at
A
18?
grown
Who
man
said?
means that you need to be useful to capitalism. That's
Oh
all
yeah,
that is.
no, yeah, no, It requires more than that. It definitely
Mm-hmm.
requires more than that. So the conditioning that we've been a part of most of our lives here, and I'm sure that it happens in other ways in other countries, but
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak as closely to what I understand because I've been here all my life. Um, the conditioning has had the impact, but also I think that more people should study their birth chart. And even if it's not the birth chart, whatever cosmology that will get you to the level of understanding what was happening when your head peeked out from your mother's womb, or when they lifted you out from that C-section, what was happening in the celestials that's having a direct impact on who you are and why you're being the way you're being. And how are you going to navigate your life with that? I think children should know as early as 3 if they can comprehend, and give them the 101 lesson first. And if they can really comprehend, especially read and understand 9, they should be able to run that thing down, everything,
Okay.
and know exactly what they want to do. So that's just my thing. My
Mm-hmm.
children think I'm a little ooh, loo. No, because
While
I
you're
speak
still
so
awake.
so definitive. I speak so definitive about it, but it is the blueprint. A lot of times we say, well, we don't have no manual on that. Yeah, we got a blueprint.
Literally do.
We absolutely have. Yes, we have
Mm-hmm.
a blueprint on it. And even if it feels like it doesn't resonate, there are other things in our environment, in the celestials, in the water, in the trees, that can give us part of the story that might be missing.
Yeah.
Because
Nothing is
we don't,
lost.
you're right, because they've altered so much. They've altered so much of everything in the teachings of what's the celestials mean and the planets, and the mixing the Greek mythology with this and that, and
Yeah.
all the other things that they wanted to mean, and adding
Mm-hmm.
in, and oh, we need to add this on, since Pluto is here, we got to do this, and since Uranus came, we got to do this, and since all the different things that had to shift as time shifted and expanded, and them incorporating all of these things in them. But our people knew about all of this way back then, way back
Yeah.
then, and
Mm-hmm.
and being able
No
to see,
civilization around it.
yes, 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 every
Mm-hmm.
little thing. So I just
Hmm.
get I just get real passionate about birds and
Yeah.
cosmology, because
They
it's
certainly go
learning.
hand in hand.
It's
Um,
learning about yourself, and that's what really got me into it, because of the number of children that I was having, and I did
mhm.
not want to treat no one of them the same, because they weren't. And they taught me that early, that no, that ain't gonna
Oh,
get it, And it was the simple things. Like my first daughter, she I'd do flashcards and she would get it. Like, woo, she was reading and writing at 1 and 2 years old. But my second child, it was like, I don't think so. But if I put on some music, I gave him a staff to put in his hand. Oh, it's like running that back. He wasn't doing the cards though, but he would learn with music. He would learn if he had something tangible in his hand that was appropriate for what he wanted in his hand. My other daughter, she was tangible reward. That is so good. Then you give her a gift or a treat or something. That was her preference. Like, what am I? If I do this, what am I going to get? And it wasn't that she said it; it was what she was expecting. Like,
yeah.
good girl. And each of them, just those first three, are who taught me that, oh, I'm gonna have to figure this thing out, because I can't do none of the same for none of them. Not even the way they like their food,
Got it.
not any of that. Not the way they like to dress, the way they
Mhm.
like to socialize, or the way they liked or preferred to be disciplined. One
Okay.
thing was not effective. One thing did not affect. You get a whipping, everybody get a whipping. When I was coming up, everybody just got a whipping, period.
That was it.
And the
Maybe
only
just in
other
case.
alternative, only other alternative to whipping was punishment. But no,
Mhm.
I have some children that neither one of them worked with.
For
It's like, and
treat
so
and
what else
pay.
you got? And now what you want me? And not, so I had to really study them beyond just watching them, but I watched them. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was the learning of the cosmologies that helped me to get into their mind and find out what really made them tick. Outside of studying myself and studying their dad, I could see what made them who they are. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I enjoyed that, and I still enjoy it, because I'm on the grandbabies now. Like, so did you know? And they're like, oh, here she go again. Just finding
So,
the commonalities and the differences of it all.
yeah, that's the blueprint. So,
Yes,
you were answering about what you would like for more people to know, and
yes,
you said that we're powerful.
yes.
Um, and here is the last one. This was the
Mm,
fourth part. This is Black Moon and Lilith in Taurus. You are worthy.
wow.
Similar. So,
Yes.
yes, this was the one for that question. What would you like for people to know? More people
Mm,
to about
okay.
the continuum. So,
I love that.
yeah,
I
thank,
love that.
thank you for all the confirmation.
Yeah, and you pulled them, not knowing.
No, no, no.
But
Yeah,
that's how spirit works. That's what I love about it too. It's the
exactly.
energy, and the whole energy, that's the connectedness.
Yeah.
and that unseen movement that helps you just go straight to what you need in the time that you need it and when you need it.
When you need it, right on time, divine timing, like we were talking about, and you can't make it up. I mean, you
You're
could,
right.
but then would you be making it up? So thank you so much for this time and for your energy. This was medicinal.
Yes, I thank you. You get me going. See, you open up the well, and then if you ask questions, that's even more. So, oh, the last thing I want to mention about me and storytelling, because I got this thing. It's a story to everything. I have a story for everything that if you ask me about whatever, I have a story for it. Um, it's always been that way, but I've never really talked a lot like that to share stories until recent. But before Mama Sumara made her transition, during the time where we were spending our last days with her, just coming and going and spending time, she told me to promise her. She said, "Will you please do your storytelling?" And I was like, she said, "Will you promise me that?" And I said, "I will." So early on after that, I struggled with that because I really wasn't out in the public like that. And when I thought about it today, when I wanted to share it with you when we talked earlier, I was like, man, she did, but she didn't say how she wanted me to do it. Because she was the storyteller. She would read a book in a minute or make one up. And I used to do that when I was little. I would make stories up, and that's how I would get my sister to calm down when it was time to go to sleep, and my children to calm down when it was going to sleep. I would just make up stories. But I did not ever consider that something to do as an adult and make money from it when I was doing it back then. And then I
Right.
also didn't know that the storytelling would be the stories that I've experienced in my life.
Being woven in. Yes.
Yeah. Just like when you say when you
Sure,
were
sure.
younger, you said that at 9 about what you wanted, and now you are. You are in it
Oh, huh.
all the way.
That.
Yes.
Wave the magic wand.
So thank you so much.